Well, you might recall from a few episodes back, an episode called Who's the Boss, I made reference to two customers I was kind of having problems with. One that I did not expect to get back, and 6 months later I still haven't gotten him back and don't expect to. The second customer I mentioned, it was a kind of a special customer in the sense that the husband is a weekly account, so that's 4 services a month. The wife is an every 2-week account, so that's a total of 6 services. And it kind of makes me a little nervous, namely because that's a big account, and big key accounts like that, if you goof up, that's a big chunk of money that you lose or could lose. Of course, the flip side of that is you do real well, it's a big chunk of money you could get. But these days, I kind of tend to lean towards evaluating the risk aspect. Anyhow, that office account, the husband's account, again being a weekly, is a dental office, and the office manager pretty much is in charge of the tank or oversees the tank, and the doctor does his thing with the dentist, or the customers. I'm not getting along with the office manager. I'm sure part of the problem is me, but she's focused too much on money and retaining money. In my business, service business, to set myself apart from the local tropical fish store, things such as livestock, I will hold for at least 2 weeks and will guarantee them for another 2 weeks. The retail store, you can go in the same day he's bought the fish, and without even being let out of the bag from the box he just brought them home in, you can buy them. No quarantine, you have no real good idea what the quality of the fish is, you don't even know if it's eating. Certainly you'll pay less money for that. For me, it gives me an opportunity to basically charge more, but at the same time, I have to take a greater risk, because if I lose those fish before I get it out to the customer, then I'm out. Also, I'm guaranteeing my fish for an additional 2 weeks. So there's a risk on my part. Anyhow, make a long story short, the dental office had brought them some fishes, and they had lost 1 or 2. And the office manager approaches me and says, "Jim, we lost the pearl scale butterfly." And I said, "Do you remember how long ago?" No, she didn't. And I said, "Well, I'm guessing it's 2 or 3 weeks ago. My warranty is 2 weeks. So you're a week off. I'll let it slide, and I'll give you the credit." "Oh, well, we also lost the chromas." And I said to her, because there's 2 different batches brought at 2 different times, and I said, "Well, how do you know which batch it came from?" "Oh, well, he said so." Oh, okay. So anyhow, I ended up giving credit, which I don't have a problem giving the credit, but it was just kind of the way it was handled. I did not feel good about it. A few weeks later, I brought them some frozen food, some new frozen food, which is less expensive, and the package is foil sealed. So I brought it, the office manager's there, I gave it to her, or set it on the desk, on the corner of the desk next to her, and she was busy with the customer, so I waited and waited and waited, and about 5 minutes later I pointed out, "You have to put that frozen food in the freezer." "I know, I'm busy with customers," was her response, and I just kind of thought, And so this account started out as a every 2-week account at the home, and then evolved into adding the tank at the office, and the office tank became a weekly service. So that's, again, 6 services a month. Once I decided I'd had enough of the office manager, and that if this was to go on as it is any longer, somebody, namely the customer, the doctor, was just not going to get quality service. I mean, if you're not happy, you're not going to do good work, and I don't want to end up not doing good work, especially for a key account. So I took the risk and I called the wife.
at home. Not tattling, that was not my intent. I basically said to her, I didn't think it was going to work out at the office, and if I left, would she still consider having me service the tank at her home? I mean, in these tough economical times, you don't want to have to walk away completely. Her response was, absolutely. She said, Jim, I have been through at least 10 service people in a number of years, and you, by far, are the most reliable. You're here when you say you're going to be here, you do what you say you're going to do, you bring what you say you're going to bring. Which really made me feel quite good, to be honest. That was a very nice compliment, and I have for many years always placed reliability at the top of the list. Because if you're not showing up when you're supposed to show up, and people are waiting for you, they're going to get frustrated after a while. And so I felt kind of comfortable in the fact that I could afford to walk away from it. Sure, I'd be losing 2/3 of the money, but at least I was still getting something, and with my fingers crossed, another account would come along.
So anyhow, we're going into the dental office today to meet with the doctor, and I assume discuss certain things, namely the office manager. So I would love to take the camera in there to record this whole conversation, but that'd probably be a little uncomfortable for him. And even though it is a reality show, I don't want to put him on the spot. So I will let you know how this turns out when we get done. Well, that was good. Bottom line, communication. Had a very pleasant conversation with the doctor, and we were able to resolve all of our issues. The service schedule time will remain the same.
We discussed the feeding issue, or the food going into the tank.
We didn't talk too much in-depthly about the office manager. It was addressed, and I think everything will be just fine. What it really comes down to is communication. You have to be able to convey your thoughts, your frustrations, your issues, and if you're not able to, that's where the frustration begins to occur.
And then I kind of hit him up with his monthly statement, which he was not at all aware that he was 2 months behind. So I'm sure he'll have a conversation with the office manager about that. But he wrote me a check right then and there for the 2 months. So that worked out good. And I think just discussing it, bringing it out in the open was beneficial so that everybody knows what everybody's frustrations or disappointments are.
One of the things that I found very comforting was the husband and wife, my customers, were aware of the benefits or the value of having me service their tank. In this case, I think the reliability aspect really came through for me, and I've always strived for that. I knew years ago when I used to oversee a network of service companies that reliability was the biggest issue. Most people in the service business are either kids working in a pet store or some young fellow who's decided this is an easy business, because the reality is, to a certain degree, it's a hobby, which you probably already have an understanding of, and financially, other than a vehicle that goes from point A to point B, all you really need is a bucket, a pad on a stick, and a siphon vacuum. And when you really strive for doing the job properly, and the customer points that out to you, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel that you're doing the right job, that you're going about it in the right way. So I'm very pleased that they were able to recognize that, and that they appreciated it as well.